What's up, degenerates? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at the S&P 500, what's happening in financial markets. We're going to be diving into some economic information and data that's coming. We're going to be looking at the calendar for what's ahead. I'm going to look at a few different indicators that I look at as a trader to determine where I think the market is headed or for any short-term movements. And I'll also talk a little bit about the VIX, and I'll go into, in our last video, we covered some individual stocks. I'll be doing that as well, giving you some updates there. We'll look at Apple, Tesla, Rivian, NIO, a lot happening in that EV space, electric vehicles. And then we'll also look at Netflix, Meta, Royal Caribbean, and Bitcoin. So what's happening in crypto? It's pretty easy to get an idea of where crypto is going. This is something that I've been pretty adamant about since late last year and what I think is going to happen in 2023. So stay tuned. Let's hop right into it. So starting off with the S&P 500, you can see that we did reject off that 200-day moving average, which is the white line. We've rejected there back in August, as well as earlier this year. We had a little bull trap above it, and then before we broke back down. You can see the 50-day moving average. We did cross that line back in March of 2022, and ever since then we've been in this downtrend of lower highs and lower lows. Since we did have this recent rejection, which is also on the top trend of the S&P 500, you can see we rejected there. This is a pretty good indication that every time so far this year we've had a move to the lows. So I do expect these areas to be tested in the coming weeks. We're selling off currently today. Apple is under its yearly lows, so there's a lot of confluence in indicators and other stocks that will probably head to these lows around 356 on the S&P 500 to test there, see if we'll get a bounce or not. Anything below that, I do expect. You can see here the candle closes. So this was the pre-pandemic highs. We might retest that line around 338, 339. This previously acted as resistance, so that 356 level, which is where we bounced there before. If you look at candle closes, you can get a good idea of where support and resistances are. And you can see here, if we break below 356, there's a pretty significant probability that we'll head to 322 to 323, if not 339. So fully expect us to continue into this downtrend into 2023. The Fed is still raising rates, which we do have the next meeting on February 1st for a rate decision, and then March 22nd is a summary of economic projections, as well as another potential for rate increases. So a lot is happening there on the calendar. If I look at what happened today, we did have pending home sales index, which was down 4% month over month and 38% from last November. So the housing market is currently in a standstill. The economy is still digesting everything that the Fed has been doing to slow down inflation. And so I expect there to be more and more negative news headlines in the coming months of 2023. Volatility is still elevated throughout the VIX curve. VIX is at 22, which is still technically in bearish territory, but I do expect the VIX at some point to reach around 45 or higher. So like right around here, I do think by the end of this recession, we'll have some sort of spike to the upside on volatility, and then that will likely mark the lows of this business cycle for the financial market. Looking into January, there's a lot that's happening. We have federal holiday, so the market will be closed on the 16th. And then this is OPEX week, so every third Friday of every month, we have option expiration or OPEX. And we have VIX expiring on the 18th. We have AM settled equity options on Thursday. And then we also have Friday, which is OPEX. So a lot of volatility I expect will continue into January OPEX. And then, of course, we wait to see what CPI data is going to be in early January. I think it's going to be on the 11th or 12th. And then we got to figure out what the Fed is going to do on February 1st. This is kind of interesting. This is another indicator I look at. Equity put to call ratio has been trending much higher. If you look at 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, You can see here back in 2020 when the market was crashing in March, equity put to call was around 0.7, 0.86 was at its highest level, and we've been going much higher. So people are betting to the downside on equities, and this is kind of unprecedented. This is the highest it's ever been, which usually can signal, at least in the short term, like a short-term short squeeze where you'll have a push to the upside because everyone is over leveraged, hedging to the downside, and usually have a reversal. But I do think that if enough people are betting to the downside, we could have a potential for a strong move to the downside, and it'll most likely happen between option expiration dates. So I like to think of the market as a lot of people are betting on options from month to month, and each month it kind of resets. So if everyone's in puts, maybe the market will trend lower into that Friday, and then you'll have a reversal to the upside, and maybe people will start buying calls, and then it'll push into February. So I like to think is the market likes to move in between these calendar dates, and that's something that I find useful. I hope you do too. Looking at some individual stocks, we'll just get right into it. So Apple did break its yearly lows. This is actually pretty bearish. We are trading in a new range. We could push all the way down to 117. I do think Apple is still extremely overvalued. If you look on the weekly chart, you can see here that the 200 weekly moving average is around 113, 114. I do expect us to try to test that level. If we do break it, I mean, we could potentially push back down to 82, which is the pre-pandemic highs. I do think a lot of these levels will be tested, and obviously if you look here at Tesla, it's just been breaking all these levels, broke the weekly moving average, and anytime you see that, there's usually a push to the downside in a short order, and you've had that push there. Funny enough, way back in, I think it was in May of 2020, Elon Musk tweeted around $47 a share that Tesla was actually overvalued. So we'll see if Tesla wants to move back lower. Obviously, Rivian has been just getting demolished, as well as Lucid. So a lot of these electric vehicle companies have been following Tesla, and Tesla's still trading at a $350 billion market cap, around $20 billion in revenue. If you look at Ford is around $44 billion market cap now, and has double the amount of revenue as Tesla. So most likely Tesla will probably shed another 200 to 300 billion in market cap, which puts it another 50% lower from where it's currently trading. So that's something to look for. I'm currently short Ford from down around $13 to $14. You can always join our Discord. We have a free trial if you were looking to see these alerts in real time. We've had this push lower, and I do expect us to break this at some point, especially in 2023 as the economy begins to roll over. So that's something to look for. NIO is also an interesting one. This has been in a huge bear flag. So you can see here, you have the lower trend line and the upper trend line here of this flag, and we did break lower, so we will likely come back down and retest that low. If that breaks, most likely could see this 570 level to trade. That's something to look for. Netflix, this is one that we've been tracking as well. We did have that gap fill reversal. So we created this huge gap on its earnings. We came back, retested that level right around 333. That was the signal to go short, and since then we've had a push lower. Now it is trying to break. It's currently trading below that previous support level where we bounced up to the upside, and a retest here as well. So currently looking pretty bearish. We're likely to come back down to this 252 level. If that breaks, then we're trading in another range lower. Still bearish on Netflix as a company, just cannibalizing their own business with, these ad options, these lower price points. So they're probably getting more subscribers from it, but they're not making as much revenue as they were before. And so that's actually really bearish for the business. Meta, this is a really good one to play short currently. We did retest and gap fill, and we've been hanging around this level right above the 50-day moving average. I still think Meta will likely sell pretty hard. especially once tech rolls over. So if you're following the market, if tech continues to roll over, Apple rolls over, you're going to see Meta push to the downside as well. I think that 108 level can be tested. This is not as clear of a setup as I'd like to have, but it's definitely an option to play short. Royal Caribbean, this is a stock that we also went short. You can see here, this was acting as support before. We finally broke back down, came back, retested that level. If you went short on any of these levels around 60 to 61, you'd be up a couple 100% on your option contracts. This is a smaller position that I currently have. And then looking at Bitcoin, it's pretty much a no-brainer that once they started raising rates, there's no real yield in Bitcoin. So it's only information is price. And so you've had this move to the downside ever since they started raising rates and reducing the balance sheet. I still expect at some point for this high from June of 2019 to be tested. So I fully expect around 14,000 to trade. I do think it will break, but it really depends on what the Fed decides to do. If the Fed stops raising rates, I think Bitcoin will still go down. What you really need to look for is whether they begin to either stop tightening the balance sheet, that would be a signal to buy cryptocurrency, or if they start to lower rates again. So if one of those two things happen, that's pretty much a really strong buy signal, not for just Bitcoin and crypto, but for any sort of risk asset. So I really think that will mark the bottom in equities or cryptocurrency and other risk assets. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be probably dropping another video. I want to get a good cadence of Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. I'm going to be pumping out a lot more content. Drop any stocks you want me to analyze. I can tell you like where I would enter if I want to play it long or want to play it short. Give you a lot of good information. Really appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.